My earliest memory isn't a warm embrace or a playful game. It's the frantic energy in our cramped house. The constant call for AmITheA, please. Responsibility was the air I breathed, the shadow that never left my side. We were a mismatched quartet: Mom, Dad, my two rambunctious brothers, and then, like a disruptive chord in a familiar melody, Sarah arrived. "AmITheA, honey, can you change Sarah's diaper? I'm swamped." Mom's voice, already strained from the endless double shifts, would cut through the noise. I'd drop whatever childish fantasy I was lost in and rush to her, the smell of baby powder and exhaustion clinging to the air. This was our normal. Everyone pitched in, a weary, silent agreement binding us. Everyone except Sarah. "She's just a baby, let her be," Dad would always say, waving away any concerns about her constant neediness, her tantrums that seemed to shake the very foundations of our tiny house. He had this soft spot for her, a blinding spot. I watched, a silent observer, as my parents worked themselves to the bone. Dad, his hands calloused and scarred from construction. Mom, her back aching from cleaning other people's houses. They did everything they could to keep a roof over our heads and a flicker of hope alive in our hearts. Mike and David, my brothers, were the lost notes in the middle of the symphony, swallowed up between my endless chores and Sarah's endless needs. They were good kids, though, they understood. We'd exchange these weary looks across the dinner table whenever Sarah threw another fit and inevitably got her way. It was a silent, unspoken agreement. This isn't fair, but what can we do? I knew what I could do. I started working right after high school. The local diner wasn't exactly glamorous, but it was a way out, a chance to claw my way up from the bottom. Every single penny I earned went straight into my college fund, a glass jar hidden in the back of my closet. Late at night, I'd count the bills, the meager coins, dreaming of the day I'd have enough to enroll in community college. That dream felt so far away, a distant, shimmering mirage in the desert of our everyday struggles. But I was good at the diner. Damn good! Within a year, the manager noticed my work ethic. I went from bussing tables to managing the books, handling the inventory. Suddenly, my college dreams didn't seem so impossibly far-fetched anymore. The weight on my shoulders felt lighter. I enrolled in evening classes, a grueling schedule of work during the day, classes at night. The exhaustion was bone deep. Some nights, I'd literally fall asleep over my textbooks, only to wake up at dawn for another shift. The exhaustion was constant, but it was fueled by something fierce, a burning, white-hot anger at the injustice of it all. Sarah, sleeping until noon, skipping school whenever she felt like it, facing absolutely zero consequences. It fueled my drive, my determination to escape. "You're going to burn yourself out, AmITheA," Dad warned one evening, finding me hunched over my accounting homework in the kitchen at midnight. His face was etched with worry, but I just looked up and smiled. "Maybe," I said, my voice tight with determination. "But I'm going somewhere, Dad. I promise you that. Somewhere far, far away from this endless cycle, this slow burn. I was going to break free. I had to. My college degree wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a goddamn key. It unlocked doors I never even knew existed. First National Bank hired me as a junior analyst. Me! AmITheA. From the backwater diner in Nowheresville. I threw myself into the work with the same ferocity that got me through school. I ate, slept, and breathed numbers. Within months, my supervisor, Miss S. Davison, a sharp woman with a steely gaze, pulled me aside. "AmITheA, I've never seen someone pick things up so quickly. You have a knack. Keep this up, and you'll go far here." She wasn't wrong. I had a gift for numbers, an almost intuitive understanding of the flow of money. But I also had a talent for dealing with people. I could charm the most difficult clients, navigate the treacherous waters of office politics with a grace that surprised even me. Maybe all those years of managing my family's dysfunctional dynamics had actually taught me something useful. Meanwhile, my brothers, Mike and David, had moved out, finally escaping the gravitational pull of our house and starting lives of their own. But Sarah? She was still there, at home, living the same consequence-free existence she always had. Mom would call me with updates I didn't want to hear. Sarah was out until 3 a.m. again last night, she'd say, her voice heavy with a sigh. I worry, but you know how she is. I did know. I also knew about the revolving door of boyfriends, the failing grades, the complete and utter lack of direction, but it wasn't my problem anymore. I'd made sure of that. I had my own life now, my own apartment, a tiny but fiercely independent space, my own goals, my own dreams, and I was finally within reach of them. Then came the call that ripped through the carefully constructed fabric of my new life like a jagged knife. Sarah's pregnant, Mom announced one morning, her voice trembling on the other end of the line. The father, he's gone, to Arizona. Says he wants nothing to do with it. My grip tightened on the phone. My knuckles were white. And you'll help her raise the baby, of course, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Well, of course. What else can we do? Of course. Sarah was still their precious little girl, even at 18, even pregnant, even abandoned. It didn't matter what she did, she was their Sarah. I stayed silent, already bracing myself for the inevitable. You'll help too, won't you, AmITheA? Come over on weekends? You're so good with children. That's when I started developing an impressive repertoire of excuses. Urgent work projects, professional development courses, client meetings, anything to avoid spending my precious free time taking care of yet another child. I don't understand you anymore, Mom said during one particularly tense phone call. You used to be so helpful. I used to be a child forced to be helpful, I corrected her, my voice sharp. I'm an adult now with my own life, but family works both ways, Mom. Or have you forgotten the money I send every month? That usually shut them up, at least temporarily. The checks I wrote were substantial, enough to cover Sarah's prenatal care, baby supplies, ongoing expenses, but it was never enough to buy their approval. My Aunt Lisa, Dad's sister, took me out for coffee one day. She'd always had a soft spot for me. They're calling you heartless behind your back, you know, saying you've changed, become cold. I stirred my coffee slowly, watching the cream swirl into the dark liquid. Let them talk. They've never understood me anyway. They say you're ungrateful, she pressed on, her eyes filled with concern. I looked her straight in the eye. Ungrateful for what? For the privilege of raising their other children? The opportunity to now raise their grandchild? I've earned everything I have, Aunt Lisa. Everything. The promotion to senior analyst came through that week. My salary increased again, and so did the checks I sent home. But I kept my boundaries firm. No weekend babysitting. No emergency childcare. No last-minute favors. Let them call me callous. I'd spent enough of my life being the responsible one. Between client meetings and financial reports, romance wasn't exactly a priority. My dating app sat mostly unused on my phone, a digital ghost town. Then, on a rainy Tuesday night, a message popped up from a guy named James. Something about his profile seemed different. Maybe it was the genuine smile in his pictures, the lack of shirtless gym selfies. He seemed normal. I noticed you work in finance, his message read. I'm actually an investment advisor. Maybe we could bore each other with market talk over coffee? That coffee turned into dinner, which turned into weekends, which turned into 2 years of the kind of relationship I'd never thought I'd have time for. James was patient, understanding about my insane work schedule. He was kind, funny, and somehow managed to make me laugh even after my most stressful days. He made me feel safe, cared for, things I'd never truly felt. You know, he said one evening as we walked through the park, the city lights twinkling around us, I never thought I'd find someone who understands both compound interest and my terrible jokes. Then came the proposal. Nothing flashy, just us in my apartment after a home-cooked meal. I can't imagine my life without you, he said, his eyes shining, holding out a small velvet box. Marry me, AmITheA? I said yes before he could even finish asking. Introducing him to my family was surprisingly smooth. Even Sarah behaved herself, which was a minor miracle. My parents were overjoyed. Finally, their workaholic daughter was settling down, finding happiness. He's wonderful, AmITheA, Mom gushed after our first family dinner together. And did you see how great he is with Tommy? She meant Sarah's son, my nephew, who had indeed taken an instant liking to James. They were inseparable, playing games, laughing. It was nice to see. Sarah watched these interactions with an odd intensity, something that didn't quite register at the time. He's going to be such an amazing father, she'd say, smiling at me meaningfully. You're so lucky, AmITheA. That's when the questions started. First from my family, then from James himself. Don't you think it's time? He'd ask, watching Tommy run around our living room, his face alight with joy. We're not getting any younger. I'd explain my position again and again. I want us to be completely ready. We need our own house first, not this apartment. We need savings, security. But we're doing well, he'd counter, frustration creeping into his voice. We both have good jobs. What are we waiting for? For the right time, I'd insist. One child, when we're ready. That's the plan we agreed on. He'd sigh and drop it, but I could feel his disappointment simmering beneath the surface. During family gatherings, I'd catch him looking wistfully at Tommy, a longing in his eyes that made me uneasy. Your sister manages just fine, he'd say sometimes, not quite keeping the edge out of his voice. My sister lives with our parents and relies on their retirement savings. I'd reply, my own voice hardening. That's not what I want for our child. The tension grew slowly, almost imperceptibly, like watching storm clouds gather on a sunny day. You know the rain is coming, but you tell yourself it's still far away. I was too focused on my next promotion, our house savings fund, the 5-year plan I'd carefully crafted. 5 years of marriage, and spring cleaning still meant going through James's mess. He never could keep his side of the closet organized. That Saturday morning started like any other. Me, sorting through old receipts, forgotten gym clothes, and the usual clutter that accumulated on his shelves. That's when I found it. A phone. I'd never seen it before, tucked behind his winter sweaters, hidden like a dirty secret. My stomach tightened. A cold dread washed over me. Not his work phone. Not his personal phone. It wasn't even locked. My hand shook as I opened the messages. The first one I saw was from Sarah. Miss you already. Can't wait until Saturday when she's at work again. My breath hitched. My vision blurred. I scrolled further. Hundreds of messages. Pictures I wish I could unsee. Conversations about me. Lol. She's so clueless. Always at the office. All she cares about is her precious career. The timestamps went back months. Months of lies. Months of betrayal. My legs gave out, and I sat there on the closet floor, surrounded by the ghosts of my happy marriage, reading message after message, each one worse than the last. Then I saw it, the message that made my world stop spinning. Baby's definitely yours. Doctor confirmed today. 12 weeks along. I don't remember driving to my parents' house. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The colors too bright, the sounds too loud. I don't remember much except the phone clutched in my white-knuckled grip. Sarah was there, of course, curled up on the couch, watching Saturday morning cartoons with Tommy. One big, happy family. What the hell is this? I threw the phone on the coffee table, the force of it making Tommy jump. Mom quickly ushered him out of the room, her face etched with concern. Sarah didn't even flinch. She picked up the phone, scrolled through it casually, like she was checking the weather. Oh, Well, I guess you know now, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. That's all you have to say? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She shrugged. Actually shrugged. We're in love, Amalia. These things happen. And now, with the baby coming, James and I want to get married. Once Amalia stops being difficult about it. Difficult? My voice cracked. I'm being difficult? Well, yes, Sarah said, like she was explaining something simple to a child. You never wanted children anyway. You're too busy with your precious career. James needs a real family. I turned to my parents, waiting for them to say something. Anything! To defend me, to condemn this betrayal. Instead, Mom sat down next to Sarah, patting her hand. Amalia, try to be reasonable. Tommy needs a father figure, and James is so good with him. And now with another baby coming. Reasonable? My voice rose, hysteria bubbling just beneath the surface. My husband and sister are having an affair, and you want me to be reasonable? Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. Well, you never wanted children, honey. And James, he's always wanted to be a father. Maybe this is for the best. When was the last time you even cooked him dinner? Sarah would make a proper wife. A proper wife? I looked at them. My family. All sitting there, defending the indefensible. Sarah, smug and pregnant with my husband's child. Mom, already planning the next wedding. Dad, avoiding my eyes but clearly on their side. A proper wife, I repeated numbly. Like your precious Sarah, who mooches off you and cheats with her sister's husband? Sarah rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic, Amalia. Just go back to your big office and your important meetings. Leave the family stuff to people who actually care about it. I barely remember the drive home from my parents' house. The world seemed unreal. Like I was watching someone else's life fall apart instead of my own. When I walked through our front door, James was there, in the living room, acting like it was just another normal Saturday. Hey, honey, he said, moving to hug me. That familiar smile on his face. The smile I used to love? The smile that now made me sick to my stomach. I stepped back, holding up the second phone. Want to explain this? The change in his face was instant. First confusion, then recognition, then fear. Where did you find that? While cleaning. You really should find better hiding spots for your affair phone. Amalia, I can explain. Explain what? The messages? The photos? Or maybe explain how you got my sister pregnant? He tried denial first, like they all do. It's not. I didn't. He must have seen something in my face because suddenly his whole demeanor changed. The mask dropped completely. Fine. Yes, Sarah and I are together, he snapped, his voice hard. What did you expect? You're never home. All you care about is work, work, work. When was the last time we even had a real conversation about starting a family? Oh, so this is my fault. You cheated because I wanted financial security before having children? You never wanted children. Not really. You always had some excuse. The house, the savings, the right time. Sarah actually wants a family. She understands what's important in life. I looked at this man, this stranger wearing my husband's face, and felt nothing but disgust. What's important in life is loyalty, honor, basic human decency. But I guess those things aren't important to you. Or my precious sister. Don't act all high and mighty, he snarled. You're just angry because Sarah's giving me what you wouldn't. The divorce papers were filed the next day. I had documentation of the affair, so it went through quickly. I didn't want to see his face again. My brothers, Mike and David, came to help me move out of the apartment. They were the only ones who stood by me. We always knew Sarah was spoiled, Mike said as we packed boxes. But this is a new low. David couldn't even say her name. They're dead to me, he declared, his jaw tight with anger. Through my brothers, I heard the updates I never wanted but couldn't help knowing. James and Sarah got married in a small ceremony. My parents were there, of course, beaming proudly. The baby was born, a girl. They moved into a small house in the suburbs. Tommy started calling James Dad. Mom keeps trying to get us to visit them, Mike told me during one of our monthly dinners. Says we need to be a family again. David raised his glass. We are a family. The three of us. That's enough. I nodded, grateful for my brother's loyalty in a world where loyalty seemed to be nothing but a fairy tale. We were the only ones who understood that some betrayals can't be forgiven, some bridges can't be rebuilt, and some families are better off broken. Years changed everything. I moved on. Or at least, I tried to. My new apartment overlooked the city skyline, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, and enough space to finally display the art collection I'd always wanted. The Mercedes in my reserved parking spot gleamed under the garage lights. I'd made it, exactly as I'd planned. My brothers visited often, bringing news and rumors. Sarah and James were struggling to make ends meet. 3 moves in 2 years, each apartment smaller and more run down than the last. But I didn't care. Their life wasn't my concern anymore. I tried to block it all out. Until that Tuesday evening when my phone lit up with a number I'd hoped never to see again. AmITheA? James's voice. Years older, rougher, but still familiar enough to make my stomach clench. Please don't hang up, he said, his voice laced with desperation. I should have hung up, but I listened. We need your help, he said, as if he had any right to ask me for anything. Sarah had an accident, broke her leg badly. Compound fracture. She's had surgery, but she can't move around, can't take care of the kids, and she's pregnant again. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, wondering if this was some kind of cosmic joke. The kids need someone to pick them up from school, watch them until I get home from work. Tommy's getting too big to handle everything himself. And with the new baby coming, he paused, his voice cracking. We thought, maybe you could help. You thought? My voice came out eerily calm. They're your nephews, AmITheA. Your family. Sarah can't even get to the bathroom by herself right now. My family? I repeated, the word dripping with sarcasm. The sister who slept with my husband and the husband who cheated on me? That's my family. Don't be like that, he snapped, his tone shifting from pleading to accusatory. This isn't about us. It's about innocent children who need help. Are you too selfish to care about them? Too selfish? I almost laughed. That's rich coming from you. We're struggling here. His voice rose, fueled by a desperation I could almost taste. Do you know how expensive kids are? I'm working overtime just to keep food on the table. We can't even afford a decent apartment anymore. Meanwhile, you're living it up in your luxury condo with your fancy car. So that's what this is about. Money. Not all of us can focus only on our careers, he said bitterly. Some of us have real responsibilities. Must be nice having all that money and no one to spend it on but yourself. Must be nice having the family you stole and no way to support them, I replied coldly. Sounds like a real dream come true. The kids need parents who didn't build their relationship on betrayal. Goodbye, James. I hung up mid-protest and blocked his number before he could call back. My mother's number showing up on my phone was almost as unwelcome as James's had been. I answered anyway, some old habit I couldn't quite break. AmITheA, Mom's voice had that tone, the one she always used when she wanted something. We need to talk. About Sarah. She needs help. James called you, didn't he? About her leg? I paced my living room, fighting the urge to hang up immediately. Yes, he did. And I'll tell you what I told him. Not my problem. How can you be so cold? She's your sister. She's struggling with 3 children. Well, soon to be 3. The sister who slept with my husband. That sister. Mom sighed heavily. That was years ago, AmITheA. You need to move past it. We're family. Funny how family only matters when you need something from me. We've helped her as much as we can. Mom's voice cracked a little, but she keeps asking for money. For the kids, for the rent, for everything. We've gone through all our savings. Your father and we can't keep this up. I couldn't help but laugh. So, the golden child is finally becoming too expensive to maintain? Don't be cruel. She's never learned to. Mom trailed off. To what? Work? Support herself? Take responsibility for her actions? Gee, I wonder why that is. She just keeps having babies, Mom said, frustration finally breaking through. She won't look for a job, says she's too busy with the children. But she's always asking for money, always needing something. Sounds like exactly the person you raised her to be, I said coldly. The princess who never had to face consequences. You have no right to speak to me like that. Mom's voice rose. I am your mother. And after everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me, I cut in. You mean like supporting my sister when she had an affair with my husband? Or like calling me selfish for wanting financial security before having children? I don't owe you anything. I hung up before she could respond, my hand shaking with 4 years of pent-up rage. The expensive view from my apartment windows suddenly seemed like the best revenge. My life, built exactly as I'd planned it. Without their help, without their approval. Mike called me one evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports. You'll never guess who tried calling me today. Sarah, I said, already knowing the desperation tour was making its rounds. Bingo. Wanted me to help with the kids, maybe loan them some money until they get back on their feet. He snorted, as if they were ever on their feet to begin with. What did you tell her? Same thing David told her yesterday, that some betrayals can't be undone. That what she did to you wasn't just cheating, it was destroying a family. I leaned back in my office chair, looking out at the city lights. How did she take that? About as well as you'd expect. Started screaming about how we're all against her, how nobody understands how hard her life is. He chuckled darkly. Guess karma finally caught up with her. 2 weeks later, David brought the news I'd been expecting. They moved in with Mom and Dad. All of them. Sarah, James, the kids, and the baby on the way. Dad's converting his workshop into another bedroom. How are Mom and Dad handling it? Remember how peaceful retirement was supposed to be? Well, now they're full-time babysitters and ATMs. Mom's watching the kids while Sarah recovers, which apparently means scrolling through her phone all day. Dad's dipping into his pension to cover their expenses. I shook my head. They made their choice. Mom came by my place yesterday, David continued. Wanted to know if I'd talk to you about helping out. Said they're overwhelmed. I bet they are. The next day, Mom showed up at my door unannounced. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked older, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. The light in her eyes had dimmed. Please, she started before I could even speak. Just listen. No, I cut her off. You listen? You chose all of it. You chose to spoil Sarah. You chose to support her when she betrayed me. You chose to let them move in. These are your choices, Mom. Live with them! And if you show up at my door again, I'm calling the police. Are we clear? She started to speak, but I cut her off again. The next time you feel overwhelmed, remember this was your choice. You chose the daughter who betrayed her sister over the one who only ever worked hard and did the right thing. Now live with it. I closed the door on her protests and blocked her number. The last family number I had left to block besides my brother's. That night, I had dinner with Marcus, the man I'd been seeing for the past few months. He knew my story, knew about the betrayal and the aftermath. He'd never pushed, never rushed, just listened and understood. He accepted me and all my baggage. After I told him about the latest family events, he reached across the table and took my hand. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who you choose. I squeezed his hand back, thinking about my brothers who stood by me, about Marcus who understood me, about the life I'd built on my own terms. In the end, Sarah hadn't stolen my family. She just helped me see which parts of it were worth keeping, which parts were poison, which parts held me back. My brothers are coming over this weekend, I told him. Would you like to join us? His smile was answer enough. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace with where I was and who I had chosen to be. The drama playing out at my parents' house wasn't my problem anymore. I had my own life to live, my own family to build, and my own happiness to protect. I was free. Time continued its relentless march. I focused on my career, climbing the corporate ladder with a renewed sense of purpose. The senior partner position I'd been vying for? It was mine. The corner office with its panoramic view of the city, a testament to my resilience. I was good at what I did, driven, and I refused to let the ghosts of the past haunt my future. Marcus became a constant in my life, a warm light in the isolating landscape of success. He was patient, kind, and fiercely loyal. He saw the scars I carried, the walls I'd built, and loved me not in spite of them, but perhaps because of them. He was the steady anchor I never knew I needed, a counterpoint to the chaotic storms that had defined my early life. My brothers, Mike and David, remained my rock, the unwavering support system I could always count on. We gathered regularly, celebrating time continued its relentless march. I focused on my career, climbing the corporate ladder with a renewed sense of purpose. The senior partner position I'd been vying for? It was mine. The corner office with its panoramic view of the city, a testament to my resilience. I was good at what I did, driven, and I refused to let the ghosts of the past haunt my future. Marcus became a constant in my life, a warm light in the isolating landscape of success. He was patient, kind, and fiercely loyal. He saw the scars I carried, the walls I'd built, and loved me not in spite of them, but perhaps because of them. He was the steady anchor I never knew I needed, a counterpoint to the chaotic storms that had defined my early life. My brothers, Mike and David, remained my rock, the unwavering support system I could always count on. We gathered regularly, celebrating milestones, sharing anxieties, and simply being present for each other in a way that felt profoundly healing. They were my chosen family, a testament to the enduring power of brotherhood, forged in the fires of shared experience. Years passed, blurring the sharp edges of the past. I rarely thought of Sarah or James or the wreckage they had left behind. They were relegated to the realm of bad memories, carefully compartmentalized and locked away, until Tommy showed up. He was standing in the lobby of my office building, a lanky teenager with Sarah's eyes and a hesitant demeanor. I almost didn't recognize him. The last time I'd seen him, he was a little boy, clinging to James's hand. "AmITheA?" he asked, his voice cracking with a mixture of nervousness and apprehension. My stomach clenched. A cold knot formed in my chest. "Tommy? What are you doing here?" He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I need to talk to you." I led him to a quiet corner of the lobby, away from the curious eyes of my colleagues. "What is it?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. It's about Mom and James." The familiar ache returned, a dull throb in my chest. "What about them?" Things aren't good," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They fight all the time. Mom's always stressed, and James, he's always working. He barely spends any time with us." "With you?" I asked, surprised. He nodded, his eyes filled with a raw, unfiltered pain that mirrored my own past. He used to be great, but now it's like he doesn't even see me anymore. He's always focused on the younger kids, the ones that are really his. My heart clenched. I hadn't expected to feel sympathy, not for Sarah, not for James, but Tommy. He was an innocent bystander, caught in the crossfire of their destructive choices. And Mom's sick," he continued, his voice breaking. She needs surgery, but they don't have the money. James lost his job a few months ago, and they're barely making ends meet. They're going to lose the house." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I don't know what to do. I thought, I thought maybe you could help. The request hung in the air, heavy with unspoken expectations. Help! The word that had defined so much of my life. The burden I had carried for so long. But this was different. This wasn't about Sarah or James or my parents. This was about Tommy. I'll think about it, I said, my voice measured. He nodded, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. Thank you, Amalia. Thank you. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the bustling city streets. I watched him go, the weight of his words settling heavily on my shoulders. I spent the next few days wrestling with my conscience. On the one hand, I owed Sarah and James nothing. They had betrayed me, shattered my trust, and left me to pick up the pieces of my broken life. They had made their choices, and they had to live with the consequences. On the other hand, Tommy was innocent. He had been raised in a dysfunctional environment, deprived of a stable home, and now he was facing the prospect of losing everything. He was a good kid, a decent human being, and he didn't deserve to suffer for his parents' mistakes. I talked to Marcus about it, pouring out my conflicting emotions. He listened patiently, offering his unwavering support. It's your decision, Amalia, he said gently. But whatever you choose, make sure you do it for the right reasons. Don't let bitterness or resentment cloud your judgment. Do what you think is right. I also talked to Mike and David, seeking their counsel. They were more pragmatic, less forgiving. Don't do it, Amalia, Mike said, his voice firm. They don't deserve your help. They made their bed, now let them lie in it. Think of yourself, David added. You've worked so hard to get where you are. Don't let them drag you back into their mess. But I couldn't shake the image of Tommy's pleading eyes, the desperation in his voice. I knew I couldn't turn my back on him. I made a decision. I wasn't going to give Sarah and James a handout. I wasn't going to bail them out of their financial woes, but I was going to help Tommy. I called him, inviting him to my office. He arrived promptly, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. I've been thinking about what you said, I began, my voice steady. I'm not going to give your mom and James any money. They need to figure out their own lives, but I am willing to help you. I'll pay for your college education. Any school you want to go to, any degree you want to pursue. I'll cover all the expenses. His jaw dropped. He stared at me in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock. You'd do that for me? I nodded. Yes, Tommy, I would. You deserve a chance to make something of your life. You deserve a future. Tears welled up in his eyes. He reached across the table and took my hand, his grip firm. Thank you, Amalia. Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me. I smiled, a genuine smile that reached my eyes. You're welcome, Tommy. Just promise me you'll make the most of it. He nodded fiercely. I will. I promise. Tommy enrolled in the local community college, pursuing a degree in engineering. He was a bright, dedicated student, and he excelled in his studies. He worked part-time to support himself, determined to be self-sufficient. I stayed in touch with him, offering guidance and encouragement. I became a mentor to him, sharing my experiences and helping him navigate the challenges of adulthood. He was like the son I never had, a source of pride and inspiration. Sarah and James remained distant figures in his life. They were too preoccupied with their own problems to offer him the support he needed. They were trapped in a cycle of poverty and dysfunction, unable to break free from the patterns of their past. I heard through Tommy that Sarah eventually had the surgery she needed, thanks to a combination of government assistance and charitable donations. She recovered, but her health remained fragile. James continued to struggle with unemployment, drifting from one dead-end job to another. I made peace with my past. I forgave Sarah and James, not for their sake, but for my own. I realized that holding on to anger and resentment was only poisoning myself. They had made their choices, and I had made mine. I had chosen to rise above their betrayal, to build a life of purpose and meaning. I married Marcus, surrounded by the people I loved. Mike and David stood by my side, their unwavering support a testament to the enduring power of brotherhood. Tommy gave a heartfelt speech, expressing his gratitude for the second chance I had given him. As I looked out at the faces of my chosen family, I realized that I had finally found what I had been searching for all along: love, loyalty, and belonging. I had created my own happiness, built on the foundation of resilience and forgiveness. The scars of the past would always be a part of me, but they no longer defined me. They were simply reminders of the strength I had found within myself, the ability to overcome adversity and create a life of my own choosing. My legacy wouldn't be one of bitterness and resentment, but one of compassion and hope. I had broken the cycle of dysfunction, offering Tommy a path to a brighter future. And in doing so, I had found my own redemption. The weight was finally lifted. I was free. Years melted into decades. I was now a seasoned professional, a respected leader in the financial world. Marcus and I enjoyed a comfortable life, traveling the world, indulging in our passions, and supporting causes we believed in. Tommy had graduated college, secured a stable job as an engineer, and was starting a family of his own. My life felt complete, fulfilled, and utterly peaceful. Then, the unthinkable happened. I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, I answered, "Amalia?" The voice was weak, raspy, almost unrecognizable. A chill ran down my spine. I knew that voice, or at least I thought I did. "Sarah?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. A long, drawn-out sigh filled the silence. "Yes, it's me. I need to see you." My initial reaction was to refuse, to hang up and block the number. But a flicker of curiosity, or perhaps a morbid sense of obligation, stayed my hand. "Why?" I asked, my voice guarded. It's important," she said, her voice strained. "I don't have much time." "Time for what, Sarah? To rehash the past? To ask for more money?" "No," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's about Tommy. And the others." The mention of Tommy piqued my interest. "What about them? Please, Amalia. Just meet me." I can't explain it over the phone. After a moment of agonizing hesitation, I relented. "Where and when?" We agreed to meet at a small coffee shop near my office. I arrived early, my nerves on edge. I scanned the room, searching for any sign of Sarah. When she finally walked through the door, I gasped. She was a shell of her former self. Her once vibrant hair was now thin and gray. Her skin was pale and gaunt. Her eyes, once sparkling with mischief, were now dull and lifeless. She was hunched over, walking with a cane, her movements slow and labored. I stood up and approached her, my heart filled with a mixture of pity and apprehension. "Sarah," I said, my voice soft. She looked up, her eyes widening with a flicker of recognition. "Amalia," she said, her voice weak. We sat down at a small table, the silence hanging heavy between us. I waited for her to speak, my emotions swirling inside me. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice trembling. "Why did you want to see me, Sarah?" I asked, cutting to the chase. She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I'm dying, Amalia," she said, her voice barely audible. I have cancer. It's spread everywhere. The doctors say I don't have much time left." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at her in disbelief, my mind reeling. I don't know what to say," I stammered. "There's not much to say," she said, her voice resigned. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For what I did to you, to James, to our family. I was selfish, Amalia, blinded by my own desires. I never appreciated what I had, and now it's too late." Tears streamed down her face. I reached across the table and took her hand, my heart filled with a strange mixture of compassion and grief. "It's okay, Sarah," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I forgive you." She squeezed my hand, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, AmITheA. Thank you. That means more to me than you know. But that's not all, is it? I asked, my voice gentle. You said it was about Tommy and the others. She nodded, her eyes filled with concern. I'm worried about them, AmITheA. James, he's not doing well. He's lost his way. He's drinking too much, gambling. He's not a good father to them. And I don't know what's going to happen to them when I'm gone. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. Will you look after them, AmITheA? Will you make sure they're okay? The request hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the past. Look after her children? The children of the woman who had betrayed me, stolen my husband, and shattered my life. It seemed like an impossible task. I don't know, Sarah, one stammered, my voice filled with doubt. Please, AmITheA, she said, her voice barely a whisper. They need you. They need someone to care about them, to guide them. You're the only one I can trust. I looked into her eyes, seeing the fear and desperation that filled her soul. I knew I couldn't turn my back on her, not when she was facing the end of her life. I'll do what I can, Sarah, I said, my voice resolute. I'll make sure they're taken care of. A wave of relief washed over her face. Thank you, AmITheA. Thank you! You're a good person. We spent the next few hours talking, sharing memories, and trying to bridge the gap that had separated us for so long. I learned about the struggles she had faced, the hardships she had endured, and the regrets that haunted her. I left the coffee shop feeling drained and emotionally exhausted. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that my life had taken another unexpected turn. Sarah passed away a few weeks later. I attended her funeral, standing alongside Tommy and her younger children. James was there too, looking gaunt and disheveled. He avoided my gaze, his face etched with shame and regret. After the funeral, I reached out to Sarah's children, offering my support. They were wary at first, unsure of my motives, but I persevered, proving to them that I genuinely cared about their well-being. I helped them with their homework, attended their school events, and offered them guidance and advice. I became a surrogate mother to them, filling the void left by Sarah's death. It wasn't easy. James was resentful and uncooperative. He clung to his bitterness and refused to accept my help. But I didn't give up. I knew that the children needed me, and I was determined to be there for them. I helped them navigate the challenges of adolescence, supporting them through their triumphs and comforting them through their disappointments. I encouraged them to pursue their dreams, providing them with the resources and opportunities they needed to succeed. Slowly but surely, they began to trust me, to open up to me, to see me as a positive influence in their lives. They became like my own children, filling my heart with a love I never thought possible. Years passed, and Sarah's children grew into successful, well-adjusted adults. They pursued their passions, made positive contributions to the world, and built fulfilling lives. They were a testament to the power of resilience, forgiveness, and unconditional love. James eventually came to terms with his past. He sought help for his addiction and began to rebuild his life. He became a better father to his children, offering them the support and guidance they needed. I continued to be a presence in their lives, a source of wisdom, encouragement, and unwavering support. I watched with pride as they navigated the challenges of adulthood, creating families of their own and building their own legacies. As I looked back on my life, I realized that it had been a journey filled with unexpected twists and turns. I had experienced betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, but I had also found love, forgiveness, and redemption. I had learned that family isn't always about blood, but about connection, compassion, and commitment. I had learned that forgiveness is not about condoning wrongdoings, but about releasing the burden of the past and embracing the possibility of a brighter future. I had inherited a legacy of pain and dysfunction, but I had chosen to transform it into a legacy of love and hope. I had broken the cycle of bitterness and resentment, creating a new family built on the foundation of forgiveness and unconditional love. And in the end, that was all that mattered. I had found my purpose, my meaning, and my peace. I was free, and my heart was full. Years later, sitting on the porch of my beach house with Marcus, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple, I received a call from Tommy. He had just received a prestigious engineering award, recognizing his innovative work in sustainable energy. "I wouldn't be where I am today without you, AmITheA," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me, for giving me a chance, for being the family I always needed." I smiled, my heart swelling with pride. "You did it all yourself, Tommy? I just gave you a little push in the right direction." "No," he insisted. "You showed me what it means to be a good person, to be kind, to be forgiving. You taught me how to overcome adversity and how to build a life of purpose and meaning." I'll never forget that. As I hung up the phone, Marcus took my hand, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "You've made such a difference in so many lives, AmITheA," he said softly. "You've created a legacy of kindness and compassion that will endure for generations to come." I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling a sense of profound contentment. The ghosts of the past had finally been laid to rest. The wounds had healed, and my life had come full circle. I had started out as a burdened child, forced to shoulder the responsibilities of adulthood before my time. I had experienced betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. But I had also found love, forgiveness, and redemption. I had transformed my pain into purpose, my bitterness into compassion. I had broken the cycle of dysfunction and created a new family built on the foundation of unwavering love. And in the end, that was all that mattered. I had found my peace, my fulfillment, and my happiness. I was free, and my heart was finally, truly, full. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow on the ocean waves. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that my journey was complete.